Hi everybody, it's Margaret here with 60 and Me. I hope that you're doing well today. Welcome to a brand new day of your life. If there's one concept or one quality that I think has guided us through the last year and a half, it is the idea of resilience. And it's a tool, it's a quality that we have learned to master as we've gotten older, with this perspective that things will pass and that we, find balance in that philosophy or in that way of looking at life. But it's been tough. And I don't think there's anyone here that's watching this video who hasn't felt like the last year and a half has been difficult. And I want to talk to you today about this idea of resilience, though, how we develop it and what are some tools that we can use in order to master it and to help us conquer tough times. We can get through this. And I just want to, just share my own thoughts about this. About 8 years ago, I did a TED Talk. I organized a TED Talk in London. And the theme was resilience. And the reason I chose it was that I don't know why that time in life, it felt right for the community that I was working in at the time. But we had this event and people talked about resilience from all different approaches: economic, social, psychological. And it was such an amazing event. I just had such fun putting it together and meeting the individuals who did the talks. But it was all about how we manage difficult times, how we bounce back. In fact, that's the definition of resilience: is having a resiliency to bounce back from tough times, bounce back and reshape, reform. And so anyway, I just felt like this is particularly important now. Now, one of our bloggers, Sheena Sarles, wrote this article on how to master resilience as we age. And it's a really good article. I would encourage you to read it. She talks about how, right now we're probably all feeling a little bit overwhelmed with this COVID experience, and that our way that we've dealt with it in our own individual way has created a voice. It's created a vibration in our bodies, which is, which we're coping, which we're using to cope. And, Sheena mentions, she's actually in her life lost many really dear friends and a sister. And, I actually know Sheena, so I know her story, but she said that she's bounced back. You have to do that. She's had financial issues and problems in her life, and so have I. When I look back over my life, I can also say, I lost my mom when I was very young. I also went through very, dramatic financial situation when I lived in the United States, and, just all the different challenges that have faced me in my life. But what do? Do we sit home and worry about it and have, get, sort of filled with self-pity and remorse and guilt and shame? No, we have to keep going. We have to, fix our situation, find a way through it, and find a way to be resilient. And Sheena talks about this author named Marie Forleo, who I don't know who she is, but she said basically everything is figure-outable, which I think is really a great way of looking at it. You can figure it all out. So what are 7 ways that we can become more resilient? These are from Gina's article, and I'm going to just kind of talk about them myself. Excuse the background noise. I've got the window open because it's super hot here today, but hopefully it's not annoying you too much. There's cars going by, but summer. So first of all is objective analysis. Okay, now this is where you sit down and you say, okay, this didn't work too well. Something went wrong there, or something has affected me in my life. But the question is, how much of it was your fault? How much did you actually contribute to the difficulty that you are? Now, it may be a lot. This question could go either way. But, from Sheena's point of view, if you can actually look at it objectively and see, okay, this is where the part that I played in it. Sometimes it's a pretty minor part, but it feels like a very significant issue. Divorce, for example, if there's a separation that, your partner initiated, you may have had in your mind very little to do with the actual circumstances, but you have to admit that there is now a reality to deal with. The next thing is to become self-reliant. Now, we're pretty good at this as we've gotten older. I think that women in our 60s and 70s have learned how to get stuff done. We were faced with a broken water pipe and we just find a bucket and we just do it. We fix it. So everything is figurable, outable. And, we're self-reliant. We don't look always to others. In fact, we have a kind of a quality sometimes that's, we don't ask for any help. We're kind of independent. The next thing, though, is to find a way to provide support to others. Now, in this world of the pandemic and all the things that we've had to face, there's been lots of opportunities to reach out and share our calm or our perspective with others. And in doing that, we do find strength and resilience. So that's the third thing, is to be helpful to others. And it could just be, for me, I mean, I'm hoping that 60andMe is a helpful outlet for a lot of you. I mean, I know in the last few months, we have had some of the most incredible conversations about different topics that are deep and meaningful and really important in our lives as older women. It's something happened, and I don't know whether it's because of the pandemic that we suddenly are talking to each other. We're digging out the emotions that have been hidden, or we're finally relaxing a bit to talk about it. But anyway, help others, provide assistance to others, and that will help you develop your own resilience. Motivation is the next one. Take charge of a problem as it arises. Don't wallow in, like I said, regrets and shame and vulnerability. Just move forward and be motivated to set a date, to be getting out of this state of mind and moving forward. I mean, there's no problem in giving yourself some time to grieve or to deal with, the fragility that you might feel when you're in the middle of a very turbulent situation. But if you can kind of motivate yourself with whatever techniques to get out of that, that would be helpful. Another one is creativity. And resilience, by its definition almost, is creative. It's like, okay, we're faced with this really a strong boundary that's negative. How do we actually push those boundaries? Well, in its own definition, being resilient is a creative act. I remember just talking about that TEDx event that I did in London. It was in Newham, which is a very rough part of London. Doing that actually was a creative response to a tough time, and it actually worked, I think, for so many people. One thing that she talks about, I think this is number 6, is basically find a way to laugh at this. I mean, I know sometimes these things are not very laughable. There's no point in trying to find a sense of humor in a very sad situation, but you must try to laugh at yourself, at least smile at yourself and think, oh my gosh, how did I get into this situation? Or what am I going to do? And use humor, not so much like giggly laughter, but just perspective, the perspective of seeing it in its place. Another thing is values, and to have appropriate values that match your actions. So if you have a situation that that is really you're struggling with, and you've got to find a way out of it to be resilient, you have got to find that they align with your own personal values, that you can't be doing things are like totally outside, because that will just cause more stress. What are some of the traits of a resilient person? This is really cool. I was actually looking at Sheena's article here, because I think there are some, and we probably know what I'm going to say, and that is positivity. Most resilient people are positive. You see the dark side for a little bit, then you say, okay, we're going to move through this. We're going to move forward. And so there's this positive yes mentality. It's like, this is a very difficult thing, but yes, I'm going to do enough to get through it. Also, an ability to regulate emotions. This is another trait of a resilient person. And this was, to me, a really fascinating word, to regulate your emotions. And I like that, because it basically says that you're in control. That if you want to have a good cry, and then you want to regulate that, so that you're not like completely taken over by sadness and grief, you can actually learn how to regulate. You can learn how to cool it down. Sometimes meditation will help. Doing some exercise can help. Everybody's got their kind of techniques, but I think that's a really, really important one to be able to regulate your emotions, and also be able to see the negative things that might happen in your life as some kind of lesson. Not like, oh, I deserved that kind of lesson, but it was like, I get it now. I see that. And in fact, we've been talking a lot, I don't know, I'm sure that some of you have been following this, these conversations about estrangement, and about how a lot of people, really surprised me how many, are dealing with separation from their families, from their children, their adult children particularly. And somehow that's a source of great, it shatters you, it breaks you. And resilience is the way that you can pull back and do that by, seeing that okay, it's not like a lesson learned, but there's a truth here to this, and I've got to move forward from it. I think that's really, really powerful. And there's that quote, and I'm actually looking at the author because I think Sheena says this quote is by Rumi, a Sufi philosopher from many years ago, and he says the wound is the place where the light enters you. And I think that then was, I think Hemingway was quoted as saying, that we're all broken, that's how the light gets in. And I think Leonard Cohen also was attributed with this quote. So a lot of people have used the quote to say, basically, we're broken. There's not a human being on this planet that is not broken in some way. But that is how the light gets in. That is how we grow. That is how we learn to be resilient. And that resilience is what allows us to bounce back, to pick apart the pieces and rebuild them sometimes. Sometimes really a lot of work. How often, do you have to be resilient, do you think? Are you a resilient person? Let's have a chat about this. If you've got some examples of times when you had to rebuild from something that really shattered you and turned out that some of these things I mentioned helped you to be more resilient. Maybe when the odds weren't in your favor one day, you actually turned it around. Let's have a chat. And I want to remind you, by the way, that if you enjoy these videos, would you do me a huge favor and just like them, because just do that thumbs up, because that will help YouTube to spread the word and show this video to more people. And of course, subscribe to the channel. And if you press that notification bell, you'll know then when I publish videos for the first time. It's 4 days a week. I love doing these videos for you. We do them all kinds of topics, from this kind of talk to health and well-being, to financial issues. We do beauty and makeup, fashion, but it's all for you. So if you've got topics you want to discuss, let me know. But let's talk about resilience. How do you show your resilience in the face of challenges? So take good care, everybody. Have a fabulous day, and we'll talk again really soon. Bye-bye for now.